Hello, welcome to Youth Online. My name's Clint, Hendry. I'm the next gen pastor here at Reverb.Church. And today we're talking about watching our mouths. In James 3:2, James says this. He says, we all make mistakes. We all do, right? Don't we all make mistakes? We do. But he says, for if we can control our tongues, we would be perfect and could also control ourselves in every other way. And James 3:2 is telling us that if we can control our tongues, look, we all make mistakes, but if we can control our tongues, we can control ourselves in every other way. And if that's the case, what he's telling us is that our greatest battle is controlling what comes out of our mouth. And James 1:26 says, if you claim to be religious, but you don't control your tongue. So if you claim to be religious, meaning a follower of Jesus, if you claim to be a Christian, but you can't control your tongue, you're fooling yourself, and your religion, your faith, your following of Jesus is worthless. And James is painting a very clear picture that the true test of our spiritual maturity, the proof of our spiritual maturity, is whether or not we are controlling our tongues. If we aren't controlling our tongues, we're not operating in the level of maturity that God wants us to have. So today we just want to take a look at the rest of James 3 as he expands on the importance of controlling our mouths, controlling our tongues, controlling our words. So in James 3:3-6, James continues by saying that we can make a large horse go wherever we want by means of a small bit in its mouth. And a small rudder can make a huge ship turn wherever the pilot chooses to go, even though the winds are strong. And in the same way, the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches. But a tiny spark, he goes on, and now he's talking about a spark in a fire. A tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And among all the parts of the body, the tongue is a flame of fire. It's a whole world of wickedness, corrupting your entire body. It can set your whole life on fire. So why is it so important to watch what you say? Because there's power in our words. Yes, your words can bring either goodness or despair, life or death. And just like a bit's ability to control a horse, just like a small rudder's ability to control a ship, and just like a tiny little spark's ability to cause a massive forest fire, the tongue has the ability to cause great destruction if it's not controlled. And James continues in James 3, he says, people can tame all kinds of animals, birds, reptiles, and fish, but no man can tame the tongue. It is restless and evil and full of deadly poison. Humans have the ability to control and tame animals 10 times our size. We remember going to the circus and seeing somebody control an elephant, right? And so, but yet we cannot control the tongue. The tongue is untamable unless God intervenes and renews our speech by his Spirit, working in us to put off the old man, to put on the new. But we need God to tame our tongue. Proverbs 21:23 tells us that whoever keeps his mouth, keeps his tongue, keeps himself out of trouble. Whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. And so it's telling us whoever is able to watch what comes out of their mouth, whoever is able to watch their words, it keeps them out of trouble. Matthew 12 tells us that out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. And listen to this, and on the day of judgment, people will give an account for every careless word they speak. Man, there's going to be a day where we meet Jesus, where we enter into eternity. And on that day, we're going to face judgment on the words that came out of our mouth, every single careless word. And so I want to tell you this real quick story today. It's from Socrates, and we know Socrates to be a Greek philosopher, and he termed this thing called a triple filter test, right? So I'll tell you the quick story. It's a little bit quicker than maybe the story was, but so a guy comes up to Socrates and says, hey, can I tell you something about your friend? And Socrates stops him and says, well, first, before you tell me anything, I want to see if what you're going to tell me goes through the triple filter test. And so there's 3 filters. The first one is truth. And so we asked the guy, have you made sure, absolutely sure, that what you're about to tell me is true? And the guy says, well, actually, I just heard it from somebody else, so no. And he goes, all right, well, fine. So that truth filter doesn't match up. So the second filter, is it good or kind? Meaning, is what you're about to tell me going to do good by sharing it? And the guy says, well, actually, it's probably the opposite way. And he's like, okay, so what you're about to say is neither good or kind, and you don't even know if it's true or not. And so the third filter is usefulness or necessary. Is it useful or necessary for you to tell me what you're about to tell me? And the guy says, no, it's really just kind of gossip I was going to tell you, right? So Socrates says then, if what you wanted to tell me is neither true, that you know, it's not good or kind, and it's not necessary or useful for me to know. He says, well then, if what you want to say is neither true, good or kind, useful or necessary, please don't say anything at all. Man, that's a great filter for us to use. Is what was coming out of our mouth, is it true? Are we speaking truth? Is truth into people's lives? Is it good and kind? Is what we're saying, is it doing good in the lives of us and others? And is it useful and necessary? And so, look, here, we want to encourage you today. It's not easy to curb your tongue. I mean, the Bible basically tells us without God's help, we can't do it. It does not happen overnight. But you can learn to control your words over time. It's like anything else. We got to practice. Right? If I want to get stronger in the gym, I got to go to the gym and put the work in over time. I've got to practice over time. But understand that we need God's help to tame our tongues. We cannot do it in our own power. We have to pray. We have to ask God to help. So my question for you this week is, what can you do to make it easier to slow down and to ask God to help you choose your words wisely? What's one way this week that you can exercise more self-control in your words today? But we thank you for joining us today. Know that we love you and we are grateful for you. And until next time, we hope you have a fantastic day.